Talking with the experts.
Jim Downs discusses future-focused accounting and our profitability game changer in episode 401.
So the plan should include start with revenue. What did you do last year in terms of revenue? What is your plan to grow your business? And the revenue should be split into different types of revenue. So there might be that you have this type of revenue and this kind of service, or you want to sell more of these kind of products and less of these kind of products because of the demand that the customers are showing. So there's really, in my mind, there's three major parts of every company: sales and marketing. So what are we going to do to achieve that plan through sales and marketing? What are our strategies in sales and marketing to achieve the revenue goal that has been put forward? Then secondly, operations. So now we've got the order and we need to process the order, and we have to create a customer experience that is powerful so that the customer wants to come back and buy more products from us or services. So there needs to be part of the plan should be, how do we improve our customer experience and make the operations more efficient?
Talking with the experts.
Talking with the experts would love to acknowledge Global Glamping Charities Incorporated for generously supporting this podcast. Global Glamping Charities, solving homelessness in all of its forms. Reach out to them at globalglamping.org.
Welcome to Talking with the Experts. This is where we discuss great ideas to take your business to the next level. How do we know these ideas work? Well, it's because we're talking with business owners who are using these ideas. Business owners who have years of experience and expertise. All things business by business owners for business owners. And now, here is your host, Rose Davidson.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. I'm your host, Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com. Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners. You can find it on all good podcasting streaming platforms and on YouTube. Today, my guest is Jim Downs, and he's from the Blueprint CFO company, and we're going to be talking about future-focused accounting and how our businesses can be profitably changed. And Jim is very well versed in this, and we just had a bit of discussion. His accounting business is a little bit different than the norm. So he is the founder of Blueprint CFO. It's a future-focused accounting and CFO service firm based in Southern California. He's a veteran outsourced chief financial officer and financial advisory. Jim Downs has served business owners and management teams for over 20 years, so he knows his stuff. He has worked with more than 200 companies, specialising in fractional CFO activities, and he is a certified turnaround professional. Welcome, Jim, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Hello, Rose. It's wonderful to be here today. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, my pleasure. Tell me, why is your accounting firm different to others?
Our firm, is based on looking at how the company is doing currently at our clients, but thinking about what does the data tell us that they could be doing better in the future. And this all relates back to when I was a CPA about 20 years ago. I had a client approach me and say, "Jim, you're our financial advisor. You've been working with us for 3 or 4 years. What do you think we should do different next year?" And I realized when I got that question, I really didn't know anything about their company because CPAs typically don't have the time to get into the details of how the companies run, what products and services are profitable and which ones aren't. Do they have enough inventory or too much inventory? You really don't get into those kind of managerial questions that could impact profitability. And so I decided to leave the CPA world and become a consultant and work with business owners to help them use their data to run their business better.
Well, it's always a bonus when we have someone that can advise us on how we can make our businesses better, rather than just looking at the figures and throwing statistics at us, because a lot of us don't understand them.
100%. I mean, our clients are not accountants. They're entrepreneurs. And so by giving them a financial statement that has a lot of numbers on it, we're expecting them to read those and understand them. And it's kind of silly, because that's not reality. And so we need to take those numbers and make them into actionable data, so that the client can have a report that tells them what they need to do differently in the future to improve their performance of their business and achieve their financial goals.
Yeah, and that's really important, I guess, in the long term for financial security, when we know, past does have a bearing on the future, but it's better that we can look to the future and work out ways that we can be more financially viable.
Correct. So most entrepreneurs run their business based on their gut, and they're not typically detailed people. They're more focused on the big picture. But as one famous businessman said a few years ago, the details create the big picture. And so you need to also know that you have to get into the details. So if you don't get into the details, you're going to be leaving money on the table, because there'll be, even though the big picture might look fine, there's going to be things going on in the business, positive and negatively, that you need to understand, so that you can create an action plan to improve the parts that aren't working quite the way that you want them to.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think having someone in your back pocket, so to speak, helping you along to understand the figures, because but I mean, business owners need to understand what their financial position is, but not a lot of us are numbers oriented. I know I'm not, and I don't pretend to understand a lot of what goes on. I just do my banking and say, well, I've got money in the bank, and then I've got enough to pay this bill and that bill, but I don't really look at the long-term future of where my finances are going, or how I can improve that. So, having someone that can help you with that is got to be of great benefit.
I think when we're growing up, if we're smart, we're kind of taught that we could be good at everything. And that's not reality. We're not good at everything. And so if you have a business and you're good at selling or creating new products or inventing some new service or software, you're not necessarily going to be good at finance and accounting. It's not your strong point. So the more that you can get support to help you make sure that you're doing your finance and accounting correctly, and also use that information as best you can to use that data to run your business and not rely on your gut instinct. I've seen many instances where that really helps a company improve their performance.
Now, how can we craft a roadmap to get us, to be more profitable through future-focused accounting?
So that what we create with our clients is what we call the profitability roadmap. And what it does is we look at how the company is currently performing, which creates kind of a benchmark. And in that benchmark, we're going to walk the client through kind of a strategic planning process where we talk about what do we think we could do better as an organization. It may be we could do better in sales and marketing, because we're spending a lot of money in certain areas and it's not really generating the amount of business that we want it to. Or we may be making this product over here in a factory, and we're not efficient at making that product. And if we could get more efficient at making the product, it will improve our profit. Or it could be we're a company that has inventory and we have too much inventory. So how do we manage our inventory and keep it as low as possible to free up cash? So all of those strategies are going to be employed into a roadmap. And in the roadmap, it's going to say in January, February, March, April, as we go down the road during the year, we should see improvement in these areas based on the critical initiatives that we've put in place to improve the business. And so that is the way that we hold the client accountable. I mean, it's accountability, but also tracking whether the strategies we've put in place are working or not.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with most smaller businesses, they don't really take time out to create a plan. They're too busy just trying to keep up with the day to day. And they're not sitting down and saying, okay, what could I do better, and how do I attack that? And therefore, how should that improve my business performance going in the future, so that I can now track whether that strategy I'm putting in place is working or not.
I think that's really important, to have a long-term strategic plan to moving forward. And it's really great that, there are companies out there that will actually help you do that, rather than just looking at the current financial situation. So what steps can business owners take to, I guess, get their roadmap up and going, other than going to a CFO if they don't have the finances to employ one?
There's books that you can buy that to teach you how to create a simple strategic plan for your business. I think, when you're starting out and you're small, then maybe you don't need to have a consultant help you with that. But as you get bigger, it gets a little more complicated, because you want to make sure you're gathering all the input from everybody in the company, and it's not just you as the owner creating the plan, because that could end up being a failure, because not everybody's bought into that's the plan. You want to create a plan where everybody is collaborating and excited about making that plan happen, and that way it'll be more likely to be successful. So, but there are books that you can buy. There's one called Traction. I have it behind me here in my bookstand, and it's a way of having a simplified strategic plan for your business. That's pretty much a one-pager. The problem with a lot of strategic plans is that they're 30, 40 pages. And after the first month, they become obsolete because something changes, like COVID comes along, or there's a strike, or there's a hurricane, or there's something happens that creates that I need to change that plan. So the more simple you can make it, if you can just keep it as a one-page plan, it's easy to change it on the fly and update it for anything that is changing in the environment. But there's no excuse for not having a plan. If you think about like a soccer team or a football team, if they go out on the field and they run a play, there's a plan. Everybody has their role in making that plan successful. But if you have a business and you have 15 people and they all go to work every day and they don't know what the plan is, you're wasting a lot of money, because nobody's working towards achieving the plan. So it's super important to have a plan, a written plan, and you'll clearly communicate that to your employees.
Yeah, I think you're right. But and a one pager is great because you can fill that out. But if it's 30 or 40 pages, people just aren't going to, look at that and populating that, every month. I think they're far too weighty plans of that size, and so a one pager is really great. Even I would use that.
Yeah, but we had a one pager last year for our firm, Blueprint CFO. Our goal was to double our sales, and we did achieve that. But to be honest, the plan I created in the beginning of the year, we looked at it every quarter, but we should have been looking at it more consistently. So this year we've actually engaged an outside consultant to work with us on our plan and make sure that everybody's bought into it and that we're all working together, and that it's not just me doing the planning, but more people that are involved in it. The likelihood of success will be a lot greater because of that.
Well, that's a sign of a good leader, when they involve the whole team rather than just doing it themselves and expect everyone to know what's going on. And I've discussed that many times on this podcast about managing and leading, and the difference between them, because you need to be involving the whole team, because if they don't know what's going on, then it's not going to come together, is it?
No, I've worked with hundreds of companies. I don't want to tell you how many, but at least 200 companies. I would say that in every case, when I walk in the door and say, what's the plan for next year, there is no written plan in pretty much every case. These are companies between 5 and 50 million in sales. So, that's pretty sad. But if there is a plan, it's usually the leader saying, here's the plan. And then everybody's like, well, there's no way that we're going to do that. Like double our sales. Okay, well, Everybody's like,
How?
how are we going to do that? I'm already working 50 hours a week just trying to keep up with what I'm doing right now. I have no time to do this plan thing that Joe wants us to do. So it like you said, it's very important that the plan comes from the bottom up versus the top down.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if more businesses worked from the bottom up, I think they'd have more happy campers.
Yeah, and also you need to create an incentive plan so that if everybody achieves the plan, that they all have some financial benefit. And not just the management team or the owners, but that everybody has some stake in the game, and they'll all think like owners when they come to work every day and think about, gee, Sally over there, she's not really pulling her weight. How come we're not doing anything about it? She's not achieving her goal. She calls in sick every day, just making this up. But
Mm.
we all know that if there's low performing people, sometimes they skate through and don't get called out when they should be. And if everybody's on the same page that we want to build a high performing team where everybody's achieving their goals, then that person tends to stick out, and it won't last very long.
No, absolutely not. Jim, what I guess, we've talked about having the plan and why it's important, but we haven't really discussed about what should be included in the plan.
So the plan should include, start with revenue. What did you do last year in terms of revenue? What is your plan to grow your business? And the revenue should be split into different types of revenue. So there might be that you have this type of revenue and this kind of service, or you want to sell more of these kind of products and less of these kind of products because of the demand that the customers are showing. So there's really, in my mind, there's three major parts of every company: sales and marketing. So what are we going to do to achieve that plan through sales and marketing? What are our strategies in sales and marketing to achieve the revenue goal that has been put forward? Then secondly, operations. So now we've got the order and we need to process the order, and we have to create a customer experience that is powerful so that the customer wants to come back and buy more products from us or services. So there needs to be part of the plan should be, how do we improve our customer experience and make the operations more efficient? And then the third part is the part that I'm in, the finance and accounting. So that's where all the money comes together. And how do we manage our money and have, make sure we have enough money, and that we manage our cash and we collect our receivables and we don't invest in things that don't make any sense. And, then we have a budget for our expenses, and that we here's our budget, and we're going to keep on budget for all these expenses. We're not going to spend money just frivolously without making sure we stay within our budget. So it's quite detailed when you think about it. There's a lot going on. And so the plan needs to include a lot of those, but it can't be 50 things. It's got to be like 10 things or something like that can be managed, because if you have 50 things that you're going to do and you're going to manage them all, pretty soon that there's just too many things to try to keep track of, and you won't get any of them done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess, how do people that aren't making a lot of profit, how can they be motivated, I guess, to make these strategic plans and stick to the budgets and so forth? Because sometimes it's a bit hard when they're juggling Peter to pay Paul.
So that's a very good question. And I would say the number one thing I want to say is that there's many different reasons why they're not financially being successful. And, it goes back to what I said before: details create the big picture. So the big picture is we're not growing and we're not being successful. So the company needs to identify, is what we're doing still relevant, and we're just not competitive in our marketplace so that other people are getting the business and we're not? Or do we need to transition to a new business model, because what we've been doing for 10 years or 20 years is not, is becoming more commoditized, and we have to keep selling at the lowest price, and then therefore at the end of the day we're not profitable, because we're always having to compete at that lowest price point. So, the goal for every business, in my opinion, is to become the leader in their industry of their product or service so that they can command a premium price. And that's not easy, but it all comes back to planning. Because if you're not doing planning, you're just going down the road and keep doing what you've always been doing, and you think it's always going to work and you're going to continue to be successful, but that's not the case. You have to be, always looking at what's going on in your industry and what the consumers are buying, whether they be companies or individuals, and how do you position yourself to get the premium dollar. A good example might be the car industry right now. For years everybody bought gas cars, and they bought cars from a dealership, had certain ways of interacting with customers that were positive and negative, but it's all changing now. And, now electric cars are coming in and they're going to be more successful. And the way they sell, they don't need a service center because there's not a lot of service to be done on electric cars. So that the whole industry is changing. And if you don't change with it and stay ahead as the leader and innovate, you're going to be left behind. Even though you've been successful for 100 years, it's a challenging thing, but you always have to reinvent yourself and stay ahead of the competition.
So I guess maybe marketing your business has a lot to do with how your bottom line looks. I mean, it goes hand in hand really with the accounting, doesn't it?
I agree. So, for our company, I've just used our company as an example. We are a premium brand in the accounting industry. We are reinventing accounting, because accounting is boring, basically, when you come right down to it. And people view accounting as something they have to do in order to file their tax return at the end of the year. But accounting can be very powerful and used in a proper context, and where that data is something that is being presented to the management team for them to take action and improve the performance of the business. That is a game changer. Nobody in the accounting industry is doing that. So, therefore we're the premium brand, and we're going to charge a little bit more for our service, because you're going to get more than just a bunch of numbers when you get your financial reports from us.
Yeah, so I guess
but every company needs to kind of think like that. I mean, that's just our example, but every company needs to think of how can they, if you're an insurance agent, how do I do what my business so that I am the leader in my industry in insurance, and then I don't know, I don't even know what it is, but you need to go through that process. We engaged a revenue coach. We went through a program called CRO thinking, Chief Revenue Officer thinking, and it was all around that. How do you position yourself in your industry as a thought leader? And it's really paid back immensely in terms of our visibility in the marketplace and our future. I think our future is very bright, because we have really hit on something that is very important, that is not being done by anybody else that I know of.
Yeah, it's an important service, I think, when we can actually look into the future rather than just stay looking at past performance, but use past performance to predict future outcomes.
Yes. But the interesting thing about that is that your past performance better be accurate. So we have many clients that come to us and they have their accounting is kind of a mess. And so they really don't know if they're making money or losing money. So it's important to have the accounting be straight, so you know that where you are, financially. Are you making money? Are you losing money? And if you're losing money, okay, that's not going to be sustainable very long. You have to be making money, because you'll run out of cash at some point if you're losing money. But a lot of companies don't even really know whether they're making money or losing money. They're coming into the work every day and working hard, but their accounting is in the shambles, and they don't. And sometimes they're actually being done. The accounting is being done by CPA firms, which is crazy. Then they're giving data to the consumer that is just inaccurate and incorrect, and they don't really know where they stand financially, which is sad. So, I mean, that's the starting point. And then once you know where you stand financially, how do we do better in the future? It's the whole concept of continuous improvement.
Yeah, and
even in our lives, in our personal lives. I just got back from a training class that I took this week, and people said, "Well, Jim, you're really good at this training. Why would you take a training class? Because I want to get better. And that's how we want to think as a company. We want to always do better for our clients, and we want our clients to think like that too, that it's not good enough just to do what I did last year. I want to do better. So what do I need to learn from the data to do better in the future?
Yeah. And it's always helpful that the person that is coaching you in in financial matters, can coach you in such a way that you understand what the figures mean, because as we discussed earlier, not all business owners are financially savvy. So having someone that can explain it to them in words that they understand can make it a lot easier, I think.
I don't know if you can see this, but this is a typical financial report that a business owner gets on their business.
I know it's huge,
and we call this a bunch of numbers, because what do you do with that? It's just a bunch of nothing.
It is.
So if you can get your data into a form that you can see where the data is trending, and only focus on the important things, don't focus on everything. It may not be important to know how much your telephone costs are because it's only $200 a month or something. I'm just making that up, but it may be more important to know what your gross margin is. If you're selling $100 product and your margin went from $50 a unit down to 30, you better understand what's going on so that you can get back up to 50 if you can.
Yeah. And I love graphs. I think graphs are really useful because you can, visually see what's going on, where if you've got just a line of numbers, to me, it means really nothing.
I'm an accountant and it doesn't mean anything to me. So, I mean, if I spend enough time with it, I could see with the trend, what's going on in the data. But, if it can be presented to me in a form that I can see, wow, what's going on here? And I can immediately start thinking about what to take action. That's just way more efficient.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. Jim, have you got any offering that you'd like to offer our audience today?
So, we're on a mission to help clients improve the performance of their business by using their data more robustly than they're currently doing. So I would be happy to do a 1-hour consulting session with a potential client. And it doesn't even have to be a potential client, somebody that's just interested in learning more about how to make their accounting more relevant to the future. I would love to do that, because we really want to spread the word, because I think it'll make a huge difference for businesses in the future if they do this.
Yeah, I think people.
We can only do so many clients ourselves. So we want everybody to do this, and it's way more than what we can do. So
yeah, it's a great offer. Thanks so much. I think it's important that people understand their finances and and use services such as yours that can explain to them on their level, exactly what's going on and make it more understandable. Jim, where can people find you if they'd like to work with you or make an appointment for this 1-hour session?
Come to our website. It's www.blueprint, BLUEPRINTCFO.com. And there's a I want to find out more bar that you can fill out. And I will get that information, and then I'll organize a call or Zoom meeting for an hour. I would like you to send me your financials so that I can look at them before we have the call, and we can talk about how you're doing financially, and what I see in the data that might be something that you might want to focus on. I would love to do that. And a 1-hour free session, and then you can take it from there and hopefully improve your performance, or if you need help from us or from somebody else, that'd be good too.
Lovely. Jim, it's been an absolute pleasure. What wise words of wisdom have you got to share with our audience?
I'm going to go back to what I started with. The details create the big picture, and entrepreneurs are really good at big picture. They don't really, a lot of times they don't want to get into the details, but the details are where the action is. And once you understand what's going on in your details, it can be a total game changer for your business.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's a great wisdom to be sharing, and people need to take more notice of it. Jim, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me today. I've loved everything that you've shared with me, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Okay, Rose, thank you very much for having me on.
You've been listening to Talking with the Experts, hosted by Rose Davidson. Make sure you have a look at our back catalogue over at talkingwiththeexperts.com. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss out on any episode. We look forward to your company next time. Talking with the Experts.